we go. Now it grabbed. Happy Monday, everyone. Super rainy day out here in Washington State. It's, coming towards mid-November, so it wouldn't be called washing a ton if it wasn't. So I'd like to go out and give you guys kind of a fall/winter setup update on the 2018 Ford Raptor EcoBoost that I have, and take you for a ride and give you some updates on how I like my switch from the mud terrains to the all-terrains. And let's just jump inside and get going because it's wet. All right, inside the truck, nice and cozy. Got the heated seats going, got the heated steering wheel. Feels really nice. Don't mind driving around in this thing. This truck feels great in the weather overall, but I'd say more so now because I've switched back to these all-terrain tires. I guess there's a reason why Ford likes to use these BF Goodrich KO2s. I know they now released a KO3 tire, but there's a reason Ford used them, is because they're great all around. Road noise, traction, summer, rain, winter snow. The performance is pretty good. I'm sure there are way better tires, but I think for the price, these are awesome. My previous setup, the mud terrains, the Toyo Open Countries, they're way noisier, but that's expected. They're way stiffer, heavier, and so on, but they look awesome. I really enjoy that summer setup, but this is totally more comfortable to drive. My wife would drive on the mud terrain setup, and any amount of throttle on an on-ramp, especially to a freeway or off-ramp or a turn, would wipe out the back, and it would scare her, right? And I've had it too, where you have traction on, and the truck will start, whipping out the back. The traction here is not too intrusive compared to other vehicles that I've driven. So that's a thing to consider. Overall, these tires, back to the factory 35, they feel quiet, they feel comfortable. I do inflate them. I think I usually run truck tires no less than 40 psi, probably around 45. And so it's a well improved experience in here, even if the looks are slightly less aggressive. I found the set online for a bargain. They're pretty much brand new. I still need to figure out how to reset the full TPMS sensor, because I'm told they have TPMS, but they might not, because honestly the stem is the rubber. Considered that I got them for I think it was $700, Method wheels, pretty much brand new, no scuffs, no dings, nothing, and brand new BF Goodrich KO2s. I'm quite happy with it. What I have noticed also is better MPGs, so I've jumped back up to around 17, whereas before on the before on the mud terrains I was getting 15 and a half, and there's a 30-pound difference per wheel and tire now. Those 20-inch Fuel Rebel wheels plus the 35-inch true Toyo Open Countries mud terrains weighed 120 pounds each. These now weigh 90 pounds each. It's a very noticeable difference. But yeah, now the traction is great. I haven't had to slide once, and I like to get on it on this truck a little bit. For the winter, I think this is a great truck. It can probably do everything any other true 4x4 or four-wheel drive car can do in the winter weather. You sit up high, awesome visibility out of these windows. Great on longer road trips, although I have slightly stiffer suspension. I have an Adaleaf spring in the back, and then I have the Eibach lift springs in the front, but the truck feels more confident going into turns. When it was stock, it felt a lot more soft. I get it, that's the Baja suspension, but I don't do any Baja. I tow with this thing very rarely. I mostly drive it, throw stuff in the back, and I enjoy it for all the truck stuff that it does, but honestly I also enjoy it for all the performance stuff that it does. That leads me to my modifications, and I'll update there. If you watched my previous video, you know that I run a Cobb Stage 2 tune with their transmission tune on the OEM Plus setting. The OEM Plus feels great. Great improvement over the factory transmission tune. The truck's not constantly, you know, at 1,000 RPM where it's in a way lugging itself. So that's a big improvement. Something that I want to do is I'm a big fan of watching Goose Tuned on YouTube. So he does all the awesome Raptor tuning, custom tuning, and it would be nice. I know this truck has a lot more potential out of this 3.5 liter EcoBoost. The Stage 2 tune, something that I've noticed is when I was on the heavier wheels, it would spike the boost up to 24 PSI and then taper off. Seemed kind of high. And the truck is now faster with these lighter wheels. It doesn't spike to 24 anymore. I think it spikes to 20, 21 because it's easier for it to take off. There's not as much weight to push. And so I think the truck is faster. The engine's not under as much load. And of course, we know the suspension and driveline is not under as much load either, now that the tires are lighter. That's a thing to consider. When people go to like 37s, 40s, you know, consider the life of your axles, of your bushings, of your suspension components. It's drastically increased weight. And yes, the Raptor and the Fords, they have pretty beefed up suspension parts. Someone will probably disprove me on the regular F-150s. I've never owned one of those. But the parts look pretty beefy overall. But imagine adding a drastic amount of weight where the truck was probably not tested with that type of tire extensively by Ford. But yes, performance-wise, these wheels perform better. I'll probably keep them just because I enjoy the performance, the driving, and the freeway driving. The truck just feels happier in 9th and 10th gear with these lighter tires and wheels. The tune-wise, what I've been experimenting with, I've loaded the 93 octane Cobb tune, the Stage 2, and then of course I supplement with a little bit of E85, 85% ethanol fuel in the gas tank. Because it's a 36 gallon tank, I usually supplement with like 2-3 gallons, and that definitely, I'm sure, bumps me up from 92 pump that we have here to the 93 octane that's desired for the tune. And I see I keep an eye on my knock detection or the enumeration. So it doesn't really show you how much timing it's pulling. It just indicates if it detected knock. All engines, especially these new engines like the direct injection engines, they all experience some knock, like some degree, because they're all tuned kind of at the cusp to be fuel efficient, because they don't want to waste any fuel. So they try to set the timing and the fueling lean enough to make the car efficient. And the way I know this is because you'll be in some throttle and some boost and your AFRs will still be 14.7. On any other car that I tune, like Subarus, you start to richen it up as soon as you hit any boost for safety. Yes, so safety in mind, I've noticed that the knock count went down drastically. I get it way more rarely now that I supplement with E85 fuel, although I'm running the 93 octane map. So things to consider. If you have an E85 in your area, you have a Cobb tuner and you're thinking about getting a little more pep out of it, try that. The truck, even on the gas can or on the gas cap, it says it can run on E0 up to E15. What that means is, honestly, the way they get pump gas up to 92, I think they take E87 and they mix in ethanol or E85 themselves. And so the higher the ethanol content, the higher the octane rating goes. I believe a 92 pump gas has about E7 to E10 rating. I have an ethanol tester at home. I haven't used regular gas on it, but I have tested my local E85 pump gas, and it is exactly E85, which is, I think I heard, rare. Like most times, they're not a true E85. So good quality stuff around here. And so supplementing it will probably bring you up to that E10, E12, E15 that the truck in the tune can compensate for with the fuel trims. You don't want to do a crazy amount because then you'll start to run a little bit extra lean, because then the truck sensors probably get out of whack and it's out of their learning range. So a lot of times vehicles, ECUs will have a learning where they can start to learn over time the amount of fueling that they need to put in the trims. It's like long-term stuff. That being said, probably towards the summer, I do want to get a custom tune from Goose because I know this thing has more in it. It feels good. It kicks up, to 4K with some good torque, but then it falls off towards redline. And I know this turbo engine can do way better towards redline. I have stock downpipes. I have the SPD trombone, gives it kind of that Gen 3 Raptor sound, a bit more of it, a little bit more sound than stock on this one, which I like. Not extremely droney, just enough sound. And then I have just a K&N insert filter. I have a catch cam that I installed, but that's more for like longevity and safety and reliability. And what else do I have? Performance mods, that's it. Oh no, I have the Cobb intercooler, the big intercooler up front that allows you to go stage 2. The downpipes I definitely want to do. I know it'll make the truck louder. Being that it's well insulated, I probably won't mind that extra sound. So that's on the to-do list. They probably don't do a fully catless. You can do a high flow cat. That's pretty good. So probably SPD or some other company, I'll be ordering that, buying that in the future. Meanwhile, I do already have the SPD turbo adapters. From the turbo, there's like this adapter flange that then goes to the factory downpipe. What they do is they really diminish or shrink the hole or the shape and hole of the narrowing down post turbo for your exhaust gases. And people said installing just those bigger flanges that are bored out more, I don't know how much more, but it's some considerable amount of area, that they feel on the dyno, you can even test it, that it's about 20 to 40 horsepower gain. That's awesome. It is kind of hard to get to, so in my thoughts, I've been avoiding it. Because if I want to go in there and pull off the stock downpipe, I probably want to install an aftermarket downpipe and do all that in one swoop and gain like the full potential. But yeah, also with Goose, he says that using your stock fueling system, you can run a tune up to E50 mixture. Of course, on the Cobb Access port, you would have to flip the tune and reflash. So that's something to consider. I'd probably try it, but I would still mostly focus on daily driving like a 93 pump gas tune, just because there's pump gas everywhere, so to speak. I still want it to be reliable. And then yes, you want to surprise some people maybe on the freeway with how quick your 6,000+ pound EcoBoost Raptor is. Seeing all these new Raptor Rs and of course the Ram TRX, which is a beast. I love all those trucks. I don't have a preference. Ram, Ford, as long as it's awesome, definitely worth the respect, and probably people that own them love them. But it would be so awesome to have a little EcoBoost that has the potential to close to one of those. I think people push these engines, it's 450 stock, they beef them up, turn them up safely, semi-safely with that E50 fuel blend to like 700 horse, maybe more, probably more. And so just with some mods, free flowing exhaust, downpipes, intake, charge pipes, intercooler, and then just ramp up the fueling, and you can surprise some people. Check out what we've got in front of us. Big boy Bronco, big wheels, lift, looks pretty nice. I wanted to give a quick overview of the usefulness of the drive modes. So over here on the steering wheel, we have the steering feel. I don't know if it's electric steering. I think it's still hydraulic steering, but there's something on it that allows, the steering wheel to stiffen up. I usually drive in comfort, to be honest, like dailying, freeway driving. Comfort is the easiest. You can steer with one finger. The normal mode, it's a good balance. Like now I feel some stiffness, and then you switch it to sport, and this this is where it really stiffens up nicely, and you could feel sporty or whatever. If you're on the freeway and you want this like planted feeling with your steering wheel, and you're not doing big turns, you're just kind of maneuvering some angle to the steering wheel. But again, I like comfort. There are modes on the right hand side here. So the truck has normal, sport, weather, where it shows a little snowflake and a rain flake. What I noticed when I had the mud terrains, the rears were a little bit, the tread was a little bit more worn. By a little bit, I mean like, let's say the fronts I had brand new or near brand new. The rears were like between 50 and 75%. And whenever I would turn on four-wheel drive, especially on the pavement, it was fine. But when you would go off-roading and you're going up like a gravel or rocky or muddy hill, the truck would start to do the little bunny hop. And I understand that's because of the slightly different total diameter of the tire, and the system, the all-wheel drive system, trying to give you the perfect exact rotation, right? Because you lock the front and rear diffs, your truck begins to bunny hop because the tires are not rolling, honestly, the same amount of distance in one rotation. That being said, rotate your tires, make sure that the front and rears have the same amount of tread. You'll avoid any of that. There's settings on the right here for 2 high, 4 auto, 4 high, 4 low, and then once you get in 4 low, you can use the rear locker. I wish Ford allowed you to use your rear locker for like fun traction control off, slides and stuff, but I know it would probably be unsafe and you'd burn up the electronic locker for sure. It's getting a little toasty in here. So I know there's an override switch someone sells that you can put, I believe, into your rocker panel switches or whatever. And so that switch has been sold out for as long as I remember, but someone's found a little module that you modify that this button works with 4 low, but the rocker panel switch works at any time, but you have to use it at your own risk and discretion, of course. You do not want to be taking normal daily turns with the rear diff locked. You're going to ruin stuff. Expensive stuff, definitely. Okay, so I usually drive it in normal mode. What I like about going into the weather mode, you're going to see this. It's going to shift to 4 auto while spinning. And then it definitely dociles or dumbs down the throttle. So like the same throttle inputs that I had before, I'm getting maybe like 70% of the same feel now on acceleration. My steering wheel is definitely firmed up a little, but I know that's because the 4-wheel drive is enabled. The notion I get is like it enables and disables the front wheel drive itself. It uses the special vacuum system in the front on the hubs to enable and disable that, so it has probably some play or leeway in terms of engagement. This is a safe mode, definitely, for snow. For example, my wife's going to be traveling up north soon, and so I know it's colder up there. I'll probably tell her to drive it in this mode. She might complain that the truck feels slower. She likes it that it's quick. I love my wife. She's a little speedster. But you could probably put it in the weather mode and then flip it back to 2A. Sometimes it won't let you. So I get a message right now. It says selected 4x4 mode is not allowed while in the snow weather mode. So that's smart of them. So you don't put it in snow and weather mode and then flip it to 2A and then complain why the truck still doesn't have any traction in the rain and stuff. The truck is also smart. If you go mud sand, it'll kind of like, that's funny. It enabled the rear diff locker while driving. Okay, anyway, I guess in 4 high you can get the locker. It just depends on what mode you go into. That was interesting. Because formerly, a while back, we got stuck in the snow in the mountains, and I believe I used the locker, but it only enabled in 4 low. Look at me. I'm going to have to go back up there this year and dominate that mountain and not get embarrassed. So some modes it won't go into while you're driving, especially the rock crawl, because it has to switch into 4 low. That one definitely won't allow you to do that. But experimenting with these is fun. The sport mode, it actually shifts harder on the transmission, so it gives you a nice kick in the back in terms of shifting feel, and it gives even more responsive throttle. What else can I talk about? One kind of complaint I have, since I drive some other sporty cars with paddle shifters, newer or some older than this car, their transmissions behave slightly differently. I know Ford did this for safety, but let's say you're in sport, you're gunning it, you're winding out first gear or second gear, and you like shifting manually, so you have the thing in M down here, M, for manual shifting. And it's like coming up and you're like, all right, I see the 6, the red line starts what looks at like 6,200. And so you're like, all right, I'm going to hit the shift right at 6 because I want to shift towards red line. The truck has a delay. So I hit the plus sign, the truck falls on its face. It doesn't hit red line. It kind of like cuts power and it's very soft. But in any kind of acceleration situation, it falls on its face, then it shifts, then it picks back up. And you're like, well, that was useless because I'm totally not going quickly now. I've kind of lost all that momentum with the weight of the truck, the nose dips. I've found if you're gonna shift in manual, you have to shift at like 5 under probably first couple gears for sure. The higher gears, maybe 5.5, because otherwise you're gonna embarrass yourself, which I have done. When you put it in drive and put it in sport and floor it, there's no such issue. It pulls hard to pass 6 and then it shifts hard. And it's almost like in manual mode, they programmed it for some kind of safety on the dunes, because people are probably, they have the music blaring or they have other distractions and noise, and they're not going to notice that maybe their truck is bouncing off the rev limiter, that. So they probably cut the power. The driver will definitely feel that. They'll definitely feel that dip and they will shift. I'm sure it can be tuned out, and I think the truck would be way more aggressive and way more fun to drive with the paddle shifters when you drive aggressively to have that. Other people that I know that have the Raptors, my buddy has one, the 3rd gen. He likes to drive it in manual, but yeah, his when I've driven with him, when he gets on it, he kind of likes to shift after 4, just because that's where the real torque band is. And then, next gear. So EcoBoost 3.5, definitely a torquey engine. The turbos are small, so they come on really quick. Small comparably, I guess, to some other cars that I've seen. And so they come on quick, and so that's a trade-off there. Maybe someone knows. Let me know in the comments, what that's all about in terms of shifting. Another thing, you can also use the shifters to set your utmost or highest gear. So I click the minus button a couple times and you can see my highest gear right now is 7 and it won't go above 7. So I've used or tried to use this mode as well for kind of like that manual driving. I'll put it down to 1st, I'll mash it, RPMs go up, I let it go up to 2 and technically try to let the truck shift again whenever it wants. And I've seen it fall on its face in that mode too. So it's kind of hard for me to figure out, but we're going to test it. So I'm kind of in a city road right now, but once we get out on the back roads after work, I'm going to record both of those scenarios and we're going to figure out what the best way to like drive your truck is with the shifters, whether it be in the D mode with limiting a gear or M mode with fully controlling the gear, or just leave it in drive, put it in sport, floor it, let the truck figure everything out. Again, thanks for tuning in. I know a lot of people watch these videos to get an idea of whether they should buy an EcoBoost over, let's say, regular F-150. I honestly drove a regular F-150 EcoBoost and I liked it. That's why I started looking for one. And then, I saw that good 10, 15K, depending on the year, mileage, etc. options, you can get a Raptor. And I just love the looks of the Raptor, lifted, more capable, off-road. So that was really appealing to me and worth it. But honestly, I believe the F-150 Platinum or Premium, it's one of those two, already comes with the high output 3.5. The other ones come out with, I think, just like a slightly detuned version, but your Cobb Access Sport will flash you probably to the same level of power. I think my butt dyno tells me this truck is right over 500 horsepower with the Stage 2. That's what Cobb promises. It's a big truck, so the acceleration feel in here of 500 or whatever, 550, somewhere between their horsepower is way different from like a car that's 4,000 pounds. This is like 6,000 pounds. We just bought like a 2011 X5M from factory that had 555 horsepower. It does feel a little faster than this, but it's still very similar because of the weight that car has. It's at 5,400 pounds. So all things considered, it's still a heavy truck, but it hides it a lot. The 10 speed helps a whole lot with acceleration and feeling great, you know, freeway cruising and stuff. Stay tuned. We're going to do some of those fun manual shifting tests. We're going to find where our true red line is and what's up with this thing. In the rain, it shouldn't be too bad. It's nice and cold out, and traction shouldn't be an issue just because these tires are pretty good now. All right, so I'm in normal mode, but I flipped to 4 auto just so when I mash it, it's not gonna hopefully cause me to spin out. And I should have plenty of room to go for it. Got a yellow light, but let's just squeeze through. So here's just normal auto mode, right? We're gonna floor it. Oh my goodness. Okay. I can feel the front clawing for sure. That was fun. So I guess in 4 auto, it kicked the back out a little, and then I could feel the front engage and just claw. That was fun. And now for some reason I'm back in 2 auto. I don't know what it did there. I'll rewatch the video, but you probably saw it. If you did, saw it go back, because it's like, hey, don't do this to me. Or if it probably sensed like a traction event, it might have kicked it back. Still, that was way better than the mud terrains. The mud terrains, I would have been sideways already. So the response on and off throttle in normal mode is not the greatest. It's not very kicky, so to speak. Like if I put it in sport mode, and then so we're going 55. I hope we're not going to slide anywhere, but watch this. Oh, I had a little spin. Not bad. Not bad for a big 6,000 pounder. How about I catch you when it's not raining, and we'll do that again. Just see the different shift modes. Let's get the remote started on this thing. I also like using the Ford app. You can start the truck from anywhere and extend the time in case it's super cold outside. So you can pretty much warm up the truck before you get in and take off. All right, we're heading home from work. Let's see if we can test some acceleration on the on-ramp to the freeway if we have the space. So I'm gonna use the drive mode on the gear selector, but I'm going to gear down the top gear that's allowed just with my left pedal. So let's see what it does. There's a lot of traffic. Oh, come on. Here we go. If I gun it right now, we're gonna just catch up to this guy. Okay, so I'm gonna gun it in a second and watch what happens. See, I've shifted or gave it third gear a lot earlier, but it comes up to 6K and the blow off sound goes off. It means it closes the throttle body. I'll do it again. That time it didn't make it to red line yet. So it might just do this because you're in like this auto mode and you're not in manual shifting, and so it could be a configuration in the TCM for transmission controller or ECU to do that. I've got to go get some gas, and then we're gonna do another on-ramp. It's a much longer one, and we'll do it in full manual shifting with the shifter shift in M, and we'll see if it does the same thing there. Let's see. State patroller cruised by and the alarm, or sorry, the radar detector didn't sound anything, so the radar's not on. This thing helps a lot. Would recommend the new Unidins. I think that's a 7 or 8, I don't remember, but it does great. Here we go. Let's see what she can fit in today. I'm gonna guess it's gonna be like $1.20, $1.30. Gas prices are okay, $3.50 something. I like the no cap stuff here. It works pretty well. 36 gallons or so she fits. We got some gas. Big tank, 36 gallons. I like it. If you drive sparingly, you can hit the 500 plus miles per tank, but I definitely don't because I do a lot of city driving. So I'm in manual mode now. You can shift either with these buttons or with your paddles, but let's see what happens, right? We're gonna try to test the same thing. Try to shift aggressively by ourselves. Let's see. Yeah, you see that? There's like an interruption. If I tried to shift right before 6 and it interrupts and triggers the blow off, I think you just have to shift early for it to be happy with you. Otherwise, in the drive mode, it shifts perfectly. I redline every time. Again, I guess I'm used to some of the BMWs that I've owned that they shift literally a millisecond after you touch that button, and thus I may have been spoiled a little bit. But yeah, otherwise you can still have plenty of fun shifting gears. It's just not it's not super instant. It's not a dual clutch. It's still an automatic with a torque converter in there, but it does well. Maybe we can have a little fun. It's cleared up. We're gonna put the traction control off. It's not fully off. It's kind of like a sport traction. The sport traction is still on or something like that. Anyway, it's not fully off, but you can have a little fun here and there on the turns. I like this turn up ahead. Maybe I can get you a little exhaust sound clip. No cars, we should be good. Ready? There we go. Now it grabbed. Yeah, you need to be in 4-wheel if you're trying to get anywhere out of a turn. And it's a 1-wheel peel. I can totally tell it's the rear right that's spinning. It would be so cool to have like a good diff lock so you could like scoot in the rain, still get a little sideways and have a little fun. I'm gonna check back on that website that did those cool modules and definitely see if I can get that. And I think I know why the rear right spins. The majority of the fuel tank is on the left side. As I've been under this car, I wonder if I understand the muffler's on the right side, but 36 gallons of fuels on the left are definitely heavier. And so this car's their goal is probably not perfect 50-50 balance, both left and right, front and back, like a sporty BMW. And that's why you'll get more of a 1-wheel peel. For example, my E55 AMG is a 06. It doesn't have a limited slip, but it does use kind of a cool technology with modulating the individual brakes to get you better traction. So it'll flash the traction control at you. Even with traction off, it does a Bernie, but it picks up and goes, it seems like. So anyway, probably do that another day when it's dry. It's actually gonna hook and go. I love the fall weather when it's dry. If it's rainy, it's not too great. What else can I show you about this truck? I guess the way to, if people want to do a little roll thing on the freeway with another person for fun, people recommend you don't like downshift and stay at a high gear and then punch it, because you're not going to get as much boost out of it. This truck loads up pretty well when you just mash it and let it downshift, and the turbos spool up in that regard. For example, here's the sport mode. And so let's say you're doing like a 30 roll with someone and you go 3, 2, 1, go.
User mark ahead.
So you could tell with the press of my pedal, the downshift took like a second or less. So maybe account for that. You know, go on 2. Nothing's going to happen until 3, but at least if you go on 3, you're going to lose a whole extra second. It's guaranteed. Okay, so 2-wheel drive in the rain, no use. Let's go to 4 auto, and also traction off, because you know the 4 auto will hook 100%. And we are still in the sporty mode, so she's gonna kick pretty good. I'm gonna straighten it out first. Definitely throws up the front of the car, but it hooks and she goes. I also like the shifts. I like the shifts. They really punch. It doesn't feel abusive on the drive line, but it feels like they grab better than in the normal mode. Again, right wheel. Even I feel if I gun it on a left turn, it's less likely. It's less likely to spin a left. I'll Google that. Maybe someone knows. Let me know in the comments. How are these trucks balanced, like left to right, front and back? Of course, there's a lot of weight up front. I've got an empty bed in the back, but yeah, I'd like to know. There's no launch control on this truck, but pretty much holding a bit of the brake and the gas and letting it go, letting it load up does the trick. You probably don't get too much boost, but again, there's plenty over there to just launch off the get-go. This truck is overall very comfortable. It's a fairly big truck, right? It's a F-150, but you feel that like in traffic or on the freeway, the maneuverability is still there. It's still good. It's wide. These wheels are a little less wide than my last ones, but parking with all the assists is easy. It feels maneuverable on the freeway, you know, merging lanes, even in some congestion, you can still be confident and feel like you're not making anyone nervous around you. I guess my concern is when I drive like a small car, which I have, and on the freeway, sometimes people that drive trucks, big trucks, they kind of dominate the road and they act a little bit arrogant, they're a little full of themselves, like they'll come up right behind you, their headlights are right in your mirror. I understand you're just in a lifted truck and stuff, but I try to be a little more considerate of people on the freeway. You know, I use my blinker, don't tailgate, don't cut people off, stuff like that. That being said, we're in a 50 now, and this person is going 35. We'll see if they continue, or maybe we can overpass. There's a bend coming up. I don't want to. We have a lot of fun driving roads, and they're very twisty. And people love to drive here, but people also drive slow here because they're just all kinds of people that live here, older, younger, etc. So, especially at a rush hour, come from work, you got to be kind of chillaxed. What else can I tell you? Yeah, I usually don't drive in the sport mode, to be most honest. It's just normal mode. The truck, the big change for me was the TCM tune. Like, sure, the stage 2 raised the boost, the power, it pulls harder through the gears. I have utilized the whole speedometer once. Doing one of those rolls on the freeway, it was like very clear. Felt safe, felt perfectly fine at that speed. So full speedometer. And it felt like it could probably keep going. The big changes for me were just the nicer drivability with the transmission tune. Like right now we're cruising 40 and it's in 8th gear. If this was the stock tune, we'd be in 10th gear right now. And then any throttle input, the truck would be hesitant to downshift because, again, they probably tune it to get you that MPG rating, whatever they advertise for this truck, 15.2 city, 17 plus highway. I get it, but I don't want my truck to lug itself. It's a 3.5. It's not a 5 liter. It's not supercharged torque monster. It's just a 3.5. Like, you need to have some RPMs to be able to drive. And then again, I like to wind it out at least above 2K to shift to the next gear, and it seems like this tune does that. There is a Cobb's Sport tune for the transmission. That one would probably work great if you're like in Baja or, you know, racing around having fun. But for dailying, it kind of harshens the shifts even in this normal mode, and then the sport mode, it makes them even more harsh than they are. And I'm not into that. Like, again, my wife drives this. I'm not into harshness of shifts. I'm into just shift points and where I want those. But most definitely would recommend this truck for anyone looking to get a all-around truck that can do a lot for you. You can daily it. It's extremely comfortable. The seats, the experience, the steering wheel, everything in here, super comfortable. The only thing is probably with the 3.5, the MPGs are still not amazing, but it's due to the weight of the truck. I know the 10-speed helps a lot. If you drive sparingly, I've gotten good MPGs in this thing if you're just feathering it. But being a sports truck, you want to get on it a little bit, you know? I do like the function of the in drive. You can limit the top gear. Let's say you're going up a hill on an overpass and you don't want the truck to shift higher than, let's say, 7th. I believe 7th or 8th gear. I think 7th is the 1-to-1 ratio in this truck. So usually most cars would have like a 7th gear and then an overdrive 8th gear. 8th on here feels pretty good too. The 9 and 10 are definitely overdrive. Like, you don't want to be going under 60 in 9th and 10th because then it is lugging the truck. So sometimes, let's say you want to keep it no higher than a certain gear, you just set it there and you drive. And then let's say you don't even want to look at those numbers, you just hit the plus button again and those numbers disappear. You don't know what gear it's in, you're just letting the truck drive normal. All that good stuff. Maintenance wise, this truck is still fairly new. I'm at 24,500 miles. I bought it at around 8,000 miles. All I've been doing is high quality oil changes. I run 5W40, the Motul. That company is known for developing like race motorcycles and race motorcycle oil. So if it's good for a race motorcycle in terms of technology of oils and lubrication, it's going to be good for my truck. And in general, let's say you used Mobil 1 or something in the past, even if it's full synthetic, if you put Motul in your car, it will sound better. It'll sound smoother, less ticking noises, less bad stuff, more good stuff. And I try to change the oil every 4 or 5K, although the service intervals, right, they always tell you, yeah, keep it in there forever. Don't do that. I think 7 quarts in this truck, pretty good. Up to 7, it's like 6.7 or something. Don't quote me. I'm used to BMWs running large oil pans. Like the 3 liter in the BMW has 7 quarts. The V8s have like 8 quarts. The AMG I have has like 9 quarts. So, hey, oil is good. Get it in there. If you love your car, change your oil. And what? The oil catch can on the crankcase ventilation side, so not the positive crank ventilation side, but the crank side, that oil catch can catches a lot of oil. It, like, not a lot, not like it's overflowing, but it catches oil, and I dump it every oil change or more often, and I'm happy I installed it. The direct injection valves, you know, the valves to the cylinders will thank you. Yes, when you gun it, there's also a supplementary port injector here that will spray fuel onto the valve and clean it, but I don't know the exact conditions when that is sprayed, so to speak. So it's good to run catch cans on all your cars, all your setups. I recommend it for the reliability and health of your engine, no matter what. You could probably run a catch can on like a diesel semi truck and it'll catch blow by oil. your truck will run better. You know, I don't know if we have many truckers watching this channel, but maybe look into it. Turbos and positive crank pressure results in blow-by. But yeah, thanks for tuning in. Hope you enjoyed this review. Take care. For those interested, I wanted to, I guess, show you under the hood if you haven't seen it before in the other videos. So I just have the cob cover over the expansion tank. It just looks nice. Here's the can. Ford sells a Ford Performance one you can install here. Probably works just fine. And then I got a black intercooler because I wanted it more stealth. And then cob bracket on some trucks. This is known to get sucked in there. And just a K&N filter in there. Everything else is stock for now. And then we have the SPD trombone under there. Makes the truck just sound a little bit better.